Enjoyed a meal at our amazing surf club or stayed at our caravan park, or you might have even gone walking around the town to read our heritage signs. You will have experienced the fact that everyone walks on the roads. This has raised concerns in our community. You would have read in my submission that we had a very serious accident in 2017 to the women's walking group. Gail, one of the victims, is here today to tell you about that accident. There have been many near misses with vehicles that have caused concern from our residents and visitors. Hopefully I can encourage you to add walking, cycling track paths for sea spray to the budget for the coming year. In the 2012 strategic plan, Council states it will assist and support communities to promote walking and cycling in the Wellington Shire, and that planning will continue to incorporate opportunities for residents and visitors to walk and cycle to key destinations for leisure. This has happened locally in Longford and Warwick, who have connecting pathways to Sale. We are asking today that you consider and implement to high priority the same type of pathway track between Sea Spray and the honeysuckles. This pathway track is approximately 2.6 kilometres long and already has been marked out by the Wellington Shire, as you will see on your map of Sea Spray that I've supplied. You will also note in the photo supplied by Mr. Google the attempt, this one you'll find, that the locals tried to do many years ago in implementing this track. The Sea Spray Reserve Committee of Management has taken the issue of safe walking cycling pathways very seriously and have implemented and paid for a track pathway from Futcher Street near the caravan park to the surf club, which you will see in your other photo. We hope that the council can finish this pathway onto the honeysuckles. As I wrote in my submission, the demographics of Sea Spray has changed so much since the strategic plan of 2012 was written. Our concern for the increased amount of families, tourists and children walking on the roads, especially during holidays, weekends and the summer months, could be another tragedy waiting to happen. We need a Sea Spray to separate vehicle traffic and pedestrians. Now, the pathway track between Sea Spray and the honeysuckles will have many advantages. One, the pathway will connect and link communities together, which is in your policies. It will give a chance to beautify another town entrance. It will allow residents, tourists and the primary school to participate safely using the track, for example, leisure, cross-country and bike education. It will help to walk in partnership and to promote and facilitate healthy lifestyles. It will give a sense of safety and security to users. We, the communities of Sea Spray and the honeysuckles, have been trying to get walking and cycling tracks for years. The lobbying went quiet because of other issues in Sea Spray, such as finishing our awesome caravan park, our surf club, cleaning up the gardens and surrounding parks, and Merriman's Creek problems. However, as I stated before, a serious accident in 2017 to our walking group on the road and many other reported near misses in the town has become a serious issue that is much discussed by the two communities. I urge you all to place this matter as a high priority and give the residents and visitors of Sea Spray and the honeysuckles the safety and due diligence that I know that you, the councillors of the Wellington Shire, can implement. Thank you for listening. Hopefully, we will have a good outcome for Sea Spray and the honeysuckles. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation, Kaylee. Now we lead on to Gail. Is that next? Yes. Also from Sea Spray. And I'm glad to see you have recovered.
My name is Gail. I was part of the Heart Foundation walking group and I was one of two women that were hit by a car. Luckily I'm here to tell my story. Almost 12 months ago on the 5th of June, we were walking on the road as there's no walking track. Two of us were knocked down and badly injured. I was one of them. I'm here today to say that if there was a walking track, that accident probably would not have happened. As you all know, the Honeysuckles and Sea Spray has become a very popular tourist destination in holiday times, long weekends, Christmas, Easter and alike, visitors swelling from hundreds to thousands at times. Also, building of new houses and estates are happening in the area, and that more rates and monies are coming into the Shire. I think that it makes sense to give people a sense of safety so that they can come to the area as they do. Families can push prams, children, adults ride scooters, bikes, fitness fanatics can walk or run on the track instead of on the road. In some places the speed limit is 100 k's without the worry of being run down or being injured. I know that if there had been a track, myself and others, it wouldn't be suffering physically and mental injuries. The accident has dramatically altered mine and my husband's life. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation, Gail. Now I think there's one more for Sea Spray. Chris, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillors, members of the gallery. My name is Chris Sarsfield. I'm a resident of the Shire of Wellington. I live in Hayfield. My family has a holiday house in Sea Spray. We're in Buckley Street. We're one of the fortunate streets there. We have speed humps. So we get a lot of pedestrian traffic in holiday periods, and it's just wonderful watching people walking up and down, strolling, kids in pushers and strollers and dogs on leads. It's what you do on a holiday, and it's what you do at a holiday destination. I won't go on in detail with my prepared speech because Gail and Kayleen have already covered it off. What I would like to do is just talk about that particular area of Foreshore Drive and Centre Road. Foreshore Drive is where we really would like to see the walking track extended through to the Honeysuckles from Futcher Street. And the reason for that is people, to avoid walking on the tarmac of the road, walk on the grass verges. Now that can be a fall hazard because it's uneven. There's quite often the grass is quite thick and you don't see where the rabbits have been digging, so you've got the likelihood of twisting an ankle or catching a wheel of a stroller or a pusher. It is quite dangerous. The cars along there, thanks to the Shire of Wellington, have modified their speed somewhat because the Shire, in conjunction with Vic Roads and obviously the Ratepayers Association, have put a strategy in place and speed signs to try and modify driver behaviour. That gives them a chance, not only the drivers but also the pedestrians using the roadway, to avoid accidents. But unfortunately they do happen, and as we saw on the 5th of June last year, it was quite dramatic and almost deadly. One of the victims, not Gail, was actually airlifted to the Alfred, sustaining brain injuries. So she was very lucky to still be with us. Things change from the normal period of the year, or the off-peak if you like, where people enjoy Sea Spray, as my family does, not in the prime peak holiday period. But come the peak holiday, thousands of people come in. The inundation of visitors and campers and what have you is quite dramatic, and that lends itself obviously to additional vehicular traffic. It ramps up the chance of a very fatal, very deadly accident because the number of cars and people walking around without the access and facility of walking tracks, paths, footpaths, etc., and delineation of the side of the road into the grass verge, it just lends itself to misery. And I think I personally know a little bit of what Gail and her husband have gone through. I can imagine the suffering, the time wasted going to medical consultancies and that sort of thing. So we really should, as a community, try and avoid that. Now, unfortunately for the Shire, that particular stretch of road where we are looking for additional funding in this budget or whenever does come within their province. It is not a Vic Road situation. I've had that confirmed by Zach Elliman. He very kindly delineated the Shire's responsibility as opposed to Vic Roads, because I was totally confused initially. Look, I'm not going to say any more. You know what we're talking about. You've heard it from both Kayleen and Gail. I thank you very much for your attention. And please, if you can find it within the draft budget, we would love some dollars coming towards us for this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris, and thank you for the Seaspray Ratepayers Association, always a very active and socially aware group, so well done to you and for representing your community. So thank you for that. Now we also have a number of other presenters today. So if I know that Ryan Evans is there for the Boysdale Football Netball Club, so if you want to come forth and have your 3 minutes, and as I say, if you've got any extra notes for Chris.
Sure, thanks, Caroline. Good afternoon to all. If you all don't mind, I might just refer to my notes for the next few minutes. We're here today as representatives of the Boysdale Rec Reserve Committee of Management, and I'm also here as the Vice President of the Boysdale Brygalong Football Netball Club. As discussed in our written budget submission, the Council Reserve Master Plan in 2010 to address the need for facility improvements and identify the key infrastructure priorities for the reserve. Through this process, the redevelopment of the existing visitor and umpiring change rooms, a power supply upgrade and improved light in the venue were the main actions which were recommended by the Council. Basically, the existing change rooms have had minimal updates since they were originally built in 1966. That's over 50 years ago, around the time decimal currency was introduced. So it's been a while. They're extremely outdated and worn, damaged in places, and no longer service the needs of football netball clubs or the other user groups. The rooms are particularly inappropriate for use by the 2 new female football teams who use the facility, as the urinal and open showers are actually located in the open plan change rooms. And the existing umpiring rooms and associated toilet and shower amenities are very small and do not properly accommodate the rising number of female umpires or individuals with disabilities. Also, the reserve lighting currently has an average lux of only 30.4 lux, which is significantly short of the Australian standard for match, practice or low-level competition of 100 lux. So the Reserve Committee wishes to address these issues as soon as we can. Unfortunately, to date, the Recreation Reserve has not received any significant amount of funding from the Council to enable any of these capital works to be completed. This is because during the development of the master plan, the Boysdale Recreation Reserve was categorised as a Level 3 significant local facility, while almost all other football grounds with netball courts in the Shire were classed as Level 2 district facilities. The ramifications of this has meant that the reserve has continually been overlooked over the past 8 years when it comes to funding, when similar reserves at Hayfield, Yarram and Sale, for instance, have not only received funding for new change rooms, but also for improvements such as lighting upgrades, new netball courts and electronic scoreboards, and the list goes on. The Boysdale Recreation Reserve Committee have sought other avenues for funding and are currently in the process of preparing a grant application to the Latrobe Valley Authority Fund. The RVA has evaluated our preliminary proposal and given us the go-ahead to progress to the next stage, which is including putting together more detailed plans and costings and chasing up required planning approvals. Over the past couple of months, we've done this and we're almost now in a position to submit the full application. The total estimated cost of the project is around $460,000. And if we are successful in the next stage, the LVA would fund $345,000 of this, with the community being required to fund the other $115,000. Half of this being an in-kind contribution and the other half in cash. The in-kind contribution, which is largely volunteer labour and trade skills, is manageable and easily and already incorporated within our preliminary project specs. The cash contribution is a little more difficult. There will be some local fundraising and some contributions available from the limited reserves within the Boysdale Recreation Reserve Committee and the Boysdale Brygalong Football Netball Club. However, we also seek the support of the Wellington Shire Council to contribute at least half of the cash required, so we're looking at about $29,000, just under. Given that this level of Shire contribution would help leverage external funding and bring the Shire assets up to the expected contemporary standards, we believe that this would be a modest but fair input. I also just want to mention that as part of my job with GIP Sport, one of my roles has been to support sporting clubs with participation planning to ensure their ongoing viability and sustainability, and I've done this also with my own club. So the main question we should be asking is, investing in the Boysdale Recreation Reserve a worthy investment? In my opinion, the simple answer is yes. Not only has the Football Netball Club continued to field the existing senior football and netball teams each season, they've also introduced 4 new teams over the past 2 years. An under-16 football team, an under-13 netball team, and youth girls and women's football teams. And we now have over 200 registered participants competing each weekend. We're actually now the largest football netball club in the Shire in terms of participation, with the worst facilities. There's also been Boysdale Brigalow Junior Games played at the reserve this season, as well as Auskick Grid Games, and a number of other user groups, including a fitness group, casual tennis players, young families, and the local primary schools continue to use the facility on a regular basis. This Sunday, all councillors have been invited to the WorkSafe Game of the Round, which we played at Boysdale, one of 10 games being played across the state. We very much welcome all of you to come for a free lunch and to inspect the Boysdale Recreation Reserve and see for yourself the current assets so you can more easily visualise what we propose. We'd also welcome visits from councillors to help them not only to understand the energy, the positivity and vision that our small community embodies, but also to appreciate the need for the project to be successful. So I'd just like to thank you for your time this afternoon, councillors, and appreciate the opportunity to get up and say a few words. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ryan.
Yes.
And I think we all agree that the football netball clubs and the rec reserves are a great asset for our smaller communities and our larger communities for that matter. Now, if Debbie from Man's Beach, if you wish to come forward and speak for your 3 minutes for your proposal, budget, Man's Beach. I'm jumping around, sorry.
Madam Mayor, councillors and members of the gallery. This is very new to me, so I apologise. I'll go off the rails, pull me up. Anyway, there was basically a letter sent in with 3 items that we wanted to address. What I've presented to Chris right now is a little bit more in depth explaining what it is, how we propose to action them, and I've got some evidence of photos. Okay, so the first item was the entire town's drainage. So Man's Beach is a little coastal village and the drainage there's had no work performed on the drains for probably 10 years now. High tides, the water just doesn't drain out. So we need the drains levelled and cleared. We're prepared as residents to help and assist in any way we can, but we do need someone from the council to come in and give us some direction and work with us. Where it comes into budget here is the floodgates. The floodgates, which you would say, right, DELP, but they're right on the edge, so it will be council and DELP working together here. They're starting to collapse, the walls that support the floodgates. So we need some work performed there so that the floodgates open. Now, we've had Mr. Sam Markowitz come from the Department of DELP, or the Department of Environment, Land, Water and Planning. On the 18th of May, he actually came out to our town and he walked around, had a look at all the walls. We've got 3 issues here, and one of them was the floodgates, the wall collapsing. He also looked at the different seawalls around the town and the area that we feel needs a new seawall as well. So, whilst we're on the track of seawall, we have a seawall that covers a certain part of our town, and you'll look at my diagram that I've provided. There's a large area that goes up the back of a majority of our houses in Fisher Street that there is no seawall, and at high tides the water just comes in and erodes all the properties. What happens here is that a lot of the residents are taking it into their own hands and trying to build their own wall. It's very unsightly, and not to mention at high tides the pollution and the rubbish that will go out into the water is not good. So this again, that's a very big project to consider, the seawall, but it's something that probably DELP can work with the Shire on. And I believe that if the Shire contacts Samuel Markowitz from the Department of Environment, Land, Water and Planning, maybe together you can share the costs in this particular item and work together. And again, the residents, if you need any assistance at all, we're there to help. Okay, and then the last of all was the rubbish bins. Back in the old days, there were rubbish bins, but at the time they were there, we had no rubbish collection in the town. And I believe in those days, everybody was putting their rubbish in the bins, so they were taken away. So right now we have barbecue area and a hall and a playground. We have a jetty, people fish, and we have no rubbish bins. So all the rubbish is thrown out into the water, into the parklands, and along Man's Beach Road as they drive out of the town, the fishermen or whoever. What we would like to do now is if the council could provide the rubbish bins, we're prepared to manage this service. We're prepared to even put the poles in to lock the bins to the poles. and I live there permanently, and a lot of other people do, so we can actually get the rubbish bin and wheel it across to be collected. We're quite willing to do that. And we also would, mainly 2 bins we were looking at, one near the barbecue area and one over close to the boat ramp, so that's where all the rubbish seems to come from. Anyway, we'd also like I know it sounds silly, dog poo bags and dog poo bins, because people pull up, a bit like Port Albert, they just pull up and take their dogs for walks and they poo everywhere, and then it gets washed out to sea and people walk in it. So if we could have a few of those, that'd be really great. We have also had Imogen Anderson from Coast Care come out, and she would like us to get involved with Seal the Loop bins. So that's good. They're the very small bins, and they're good for fishing tackle and fishing lines. So we can put one of those on the jetty and one near the boat ramp, but they're only very small. So if we could have the normal bin, that'd be really good. So is my time up? Sorry. I'm going. Bye.
For a first timer, you did very well. Thank you. And thank you for your submission on behalf of Man's Beach. We've got Helen Hopner for the rail trail presentation, which is number 5. Councillors, if you look at that.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor and councillors and staff and the gallery behind. I can't offer you a free lunch, just quietly. Well done. Firstly, can I start by thanking Council for their support for the Gippsland Plains Rail Trail. Without your support and the support of Latrobe City Council, we would be stumped. And the community thanks you on our behalf as well. And it's the community that's driven the projects that I've sent you the submission papers for. With 3,000 people consistently using the 67-kilometre trail, it is incumbent on our Committee of Management to listen to their needs. We sit on a double-edged sword in some respects, because the more work you do to the trail, the more that is expected. The more people that come in, the more the expectation is. So we don't have any form of income. So, we rely really heavily on every level of government. And you would have seen in the paper the Thompson River, the bridge that we want to put over the Thompson River. Currently, that's where we get the most complaints from visitors. What happens is, a lot of them come from the Terrelgan end, they stop at Cowar. Or they get on the train and they come from the Stratford end and they stop at Hayfield. That little bit in between is too difficult for a lot of people, because they're out on a very unsafe road. They're out on the Dawson-Seaton Road with huge agricultural machinery, farm vehicles, four-wheel drives going to Lacola, usually in a hurry, and the Glen Maggie Weir traffic. It's the back road from Cowar. So we really do need that connection in the trail to make our trail accessible to everyone from both ends of the trail. The second project is the Eaglehawk Creek Bridge. We only ever did a temporary structure there to open the whole thing up. And every flood that goes by, not that there's been much water about, but every flood that goes by, it damages a little bit further, and we get a lot of complaints about that. And we want to finish the trail from Marshall's Road to the Princess Highway. It's just a no-brainer. It's the last kilometre. It does need a bit of funding, and I'm sure the Latrobe City Council will go ahead with helping us with that. And last but not least, we want to seal it. We want to seal from the Princess Highway to Glengarry. It's our most used section. It's our most high-maintenance section, and it'll save us money in the long term. And we want accessibility for every person in the community, with charge points along the way for their mobile vehicles. We've met with the Latrobe Valley Authority, as I've pointed out in our submission. They were very happy to support the application, but we do need partners. So they would kick in half the amount of the $1,052,000. We've not spoken to Darren Chester yet, because there's no rounds of federal funding quite ready yet. There will be in the next couple of months, the BRRR I think it is, and there's some funds through Tourism Australia. Darren's office is looking into that. So if we can get 300,000 out of the federal government, 125,000 from each of the councils, and with the LVA money, we'll get our projects up and going. So your support is absolutely crucial, and I'm really sorry, but every time I come to talk to council about opening their purse, I think back and think of the 20 years we've been maintaining and managing this rail trail with very little money coming from government. You know, it's been, it's a serious downfall on government's behalf that they want these things to happen and they never kick the can to do it. So now that the LVA money's floating around, I think it's our best opportunity, but we do need that partnership and we do need your support. I have with me today Alan Lewis in the gallery for any technical explanation. Don't ask me anything technical about bridges or anything because I don't know. But thank you very much and thank you for your prior support. It is really appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Helen, and may I congratulate the Railtail crew. The additive of the paintwork on the the station crane at Cowa looks fantastic. You drive along, oh, suddenly there's a bright yellow thing there. No, it looks brilliant, and all the work you do, and I can contest living on it how much traffic goes up and down through the district on that trail. So well done to your committee and yourself over the 25 years. Thank you, Alex. Where are enough? You wish to speak to your switches? You're going to roll it all into one?
Yes, good afternoon, Councillor, Mayors, Councillor, ladies and gentlemen. I want to make just a few comments on my submission, which I understand has been circulated. And most of it is about congratulations and a pat on the back in a strategic sense of what you're doing. I find it commendable. But in a micro sense, I want to raise an issue, and that is I'd like you to consider increasing your budget for roadside weeds. Now, I guess all of us here are pretty proud, I am, of our towns, our cities, our beaches, and recreational reserves, our landscape. But what I find a little bit concerning is that when I drive around the roads, there are lots and lots of weeds. Now, I guess as a land care member and a farmer, I am more aware of weeds than most. But there are some weeds that even the townies have a mumble to me about, and that is blackberries. Now, I know people like eating blackberries and it makes wonderful jam, but it is a noxious weed. So please, can you consider perhaps increasing the budget for roadside weed management? Now, just a few other observations that I did make on the second part of my submission. I admire the vision of Wellington Shire to have a vibrant economy. I actually thought the economic budget being only 4% may have been a little low, if that's our vision. I'd like to praise you also for a couple of facilities in Sale. I've become a very active user, even in the gym, of Aqua Energy, and I'd have to say what an amazing facility that is. And hopefully even today I'll get up and have a splash in the pool. And the new gallery is world class, which brings me perhaps to my final point. I believe that we have some facilities here, that wonderful port out there that is of national importance and international importance. I think we should seriously consider how we can market this wonderful region, our lakes, internationally. and perhaps consider putting together an international plan or an investment plan or some sort of promotional plan for tourists and for investors. Well done on the budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. It's always nice to get bouquets. And thank you for your considered submission, re the weeds as well. Now we have got some other items, and I'll just, other people who come in later. Is there anybody who was wishing to speak to the Gippsland Climate Change Network? Item 2? No? If we can scroll down, no? We scroll down to, there was another item. Lock Sport? No, item 8. David Woodhouse? No? Neil, yes? No? Neil's not here. Port Albert Progress? Christopher Cato? No? Gippsland Sports Academy? No? That's okay. Is there anybody else who came in late that has an item specifically they wish to speak about for the budget? No? If not, do we do the motion to actually receive it? Or
Any other items on the list?
yeah, no other items that aren't on the list to be presented? No? So I'll have a motion. Thank you.
Mayor. I'm happy to move the recommendation that Council receive and consider submissions relating to the 2018-19 draft budget.
Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Hall, is that motion opposed? The motion's not opposed. The motion is carried. Thank you. Now, if it's now time for the councils to consider these submissions. So thank you for your participation and your considered submissions through to council. As I say, we have both received all the written submissions, and we'll have a look at those extra documents. So again, thank you for contributing to the budget process, and if you can now leave and enjoy the rest of the building and the rest of your day, thank you very much. We'll have a